All right. Friday, 29th, last stand up of July. Why don't we just take it in order here? I see Hayden's box first. How goes it?
Pretty good. Yeah, I sort of ran into a handful of problems this week, but I've been meeting with Michelle at our office hours, and she's been helping me through all of the problems with the forms. I think there were just some like consistent errors I was making that she's helping me fix.
For those of us who have not caught up on all of the
it.
last three or two Fridays, what form are you working on now? Are you working the
It's the
internal
worksheet.
still?
It's the worksheet one. Yep.
Oh, the worksheet one. Okay,
the child support worksheet. Yeah. So I've been spending most of my time with that. And yeah, it was just like a bunch of, I think I was just not assigning values correctly, and I was doing math in the wrong places and some incorrect logic and just like syntax problems. So Michelle's been super helpful helping me work through those things.
That is what Michelle is.
Yeah. So sort of just chugging along. It's taking longer than I was hoping, but
it always does.
Yeah. But it's going good. I mean, Michelle's, like I said, super helpful. So
all right, cool.
Yeah.
Do we think we have it at a stage where we could, if not today, because I'm conscious of the fact that you'll be going back to classes soon, and more importantly, that you'll be leaving, I assume, I don't know if you're going to continue working with Court Service Center in the fall, but you'll be leaving that placement, which is where we sort of got the idea. So I want to make sure that we have time to do a show and tell with them and get them engaged to the point where they're like, yes, we want to keep working on this before you disappear.
I think today would not be a great day to do that with like a demo for you. Maybe Tuesday I could run through where I'm at with you on our cohort meeting.
Okay.
And I think that would be like a good spot to check, like touch base on a more detailed level.
I think that sounds good.
Yeah, I know Kristen, my manager at the Court Service Center too. I don't know if she ended up reaching out to you yet, Caroline. She said she was going to send you, me, and she ended up getting that A to J fellow's email.
Okay.
So she was going to email all three of us and try to set up a meeting so we could all chat about.
What's your date? What are your dates? When are you thinking of finishing assembly line, or when do you have to go back to school, or when's your last day at the Court Service Center?
I have no dates yet. I go back to school on the 29th, but I haven't told of August, but I haven't told anyone when I'm stopping. I mean, I'm cool with working until the end, really. And I have 2 days off a week too, so I'm okay with doing stuff if y'all need help during the semester too, or if I can keep doing it. So.
What you really should do is you should join the lab class or something, and then you can get credit.
Yeah,
that's just a thing to throw out there.
Yeah.
And just so you know, working with us over the summer and doing this is one of the situations in which we would waive the prerequisite for the lab class. So if you're just looking for 2 experiential credits, that is something to consider. Although we would waive the prerequisite, I still think it would be beneficial to you to take either Quentin or one of Quentin or my classes.
Yeah, I'm really considering the like the tech concentration too. So I would end up taking a bunch of those things. I wanted to talk with you or Quentin about it at some point.
Yeah, we can find either we can next Tuesday is going to be rough actually, because I have someone scheduled something at that same time. Quentin, you're going to be away, correct? You're away through the 9th. So I might actually reach out to the summer cohort and see if we can either push the meeting either earlier or later in the day on Tuesday, or move it to a different day. But the point is, whenever we have that meeting, maybe the thing is to do for us just to stay on after it and
just talk about that. Yeah. That'd be sweet. Yeah.
Or it might be beneficial to the entire summer cohort group, but probably not here. So continue.
Yeah. So, but Caroline and Kristen and that fellow we were all going to meet and talk about the financial statement that Caroline had been working on, and then that this fellow had also been working on. And I think I had mentioned that it was DocAssembly Caroline that she was working on it. I found out that it was the other
Tyler.
A to J author.
It's the A to J author sort of.
Oh, A to J author? Are you sure?
That's what I was told last. It switched from DocAssembly to A to J author and sort of back and forth. So I don't know. I'm a little confused now what they're actually doing. Yeah, but it's one of those two.
Well, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
We'll find out
eventually.
when we finally meet.
Yeah.
And who does the A to J fellow work with or for?
It's with the courts. I found if you just search like A to J Massachusetts Fellows, I found like a
Oh.
website with a bunch of attorneys attached. I can find the link and send it to you
Okay,
in a moment. Yeah. But that sort of wraps up me, David.
all right.
Cool.
Where am I?
Caroline.
So I'm trying to convert some of the A to J author interviews to DocAssemble and learning that they have a divorce one. Remember, these are just for action plans. These aren't for forms at the end. And I have one there, protective order one. I've put that over there because the developers who are working on Legal Navigator are trying to embed a DocAssemble interview, do whatever they need to do so DocAssemble can be embedded in the Legal Nav website. And so I'm trying to get some useful interviews moved over to make sure that we're getting all the features that DocAssemble has. I mean, not every single one, but the basic ones that we need. And then also, I don't know what they can do as DocAssemble improves, how that would affect the embedding. I can't imagine it would do too much. I mean, I imagine every once in a while it will, but I can't imagine that the embed code would be different every single time Jonathan updates DocAssemble. But so that's what I did last week and got the interview, did an interview page, that page where you have the list of interviews that are on the server. And I haven't heard back from them. So I kind of got tripped up on some of the first A to J author interviews they did in Alaska because I couldn't figure out what they were doing. Why are you doing it this way? And
You always got to find your way. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just because they had to, and sometimes it's because they they did it one way one time. They were learning, and they didn't go back. But that's where we are, not too far along.
So from that, am I to imply that they didn't take the idea of just sending it directly to the apps? They have to embed them still?
I tried.
Get a court URL and everything. It's a better user experience.
Well, I found out
wrong.
some more stuff that just well, part of it is this grant is the Legal Navigator grant for Alaska and Hawaii. Yeah. So that's part of it is so
it has to be in their site. I got it.
The way they did it is has to be embedded. So we won't talk about decision making right now.
Hey, if it's going to take the problem was that it's going to take a little more work, but if you're getting money for the little more work, then
yeah, I mean,
if it's a requirement of the money, it's a requirement of the money.
I don't know how many WordPress sites actually embed DocAssemble interviews. And although we think it's better practice if your DocAssemble interviews are on a separate server, we think it's better practice if you can get the right URL to link to, have two servers. However, there are going to be people who want DocAssemble embedded. I mean, I don't know if there are any other. I mean, I did post to Slack saying, are there any other people out there using WordPress embedding DocAssemble interviews? And Jonathan said, I already talked to your developers.
But that wasn't the question.
That's the only response I got. So,
Well, if Jonathan's on top of it, then I'm sure it'll be at least the experience will be thought through.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, that's where we are.
All right, cool. Michelle.
Not a lot, but been working on mostly ale kiln stuff. I honestly can't remember what I've been working on, but we got the income module out. That's something to catch you up on, I think, if you've missed that. Also been working on Kiln and its issues with server reloads and having it handle that. Some great improvements from Bryce on various fronts with details, and getting the random inputs sorted. We've almost got to MVP, so that's good. And I tried doing some form fixer stuff, but it's unclear where to upload the files because the link to download and upload are the same, and I couldn't tell if that was
Yeah.
intentional.
I think that was probably not intentional, but my recollection was that there was a folder for labeled and a folder for non-labeled. But maybe that's
Or
that's my
maybe it
memory
just
from.
looked the same to me, but
Yeah.
the both had all the files in them already.
I do
There
think they're
are
the
two
same
folders.
folder.
I think the link was wrong. I was just looking at that thread.
Yeah.
That's just no one. That's just no one knowing how to use SharePoint because SharePoint. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't used SharePoint before, so.
Yeah, it was just a, yeah, there are two different folders. I'm just editing the link.
Great.
So it was just that I just had not put the link. So it's, yeah. So now now the links are right.
Yeah, great. And other than that, I just get confused when it says like court district and stuff about courts. I'm not sure when I'm supposed to use trial court and when I'm supposed to use something else. And it asks for district and county. So I'm kind of making up some of the stuff, but
All right,
so
cool.
district doesn't seem to be the same as county, and I'm doing, what I do with that.
Well, that's, part of this is, kicking the tires and see where our naming convention makes sense and what things
Yeah.
are sensible for it to be able to figure out.
I did have a question about whether we should add the signature field, like whether we should add an actual signature field or not.
Yeah, for the ML training, not important because it wouldn't assume that there would be one there originally. We're just trying to figure out what the labels are. So it could be, it can stay a text field if it was rendered as a text field. It should stay as the bottom line is whatever fields are there are the only ones you should be renaming.
Oh, really? Even if they weren't, because there was a signature field that didn't get generated. It didn't have any field.
Yeah, no, whatever was, the point is whatever is in those set of raw documents, just changing the names of those fields is what's being asked,
even
not
if
the
they're
addition of
missing
any other
fields. Okay.
Yeah, even if they're missing fields, because we're just trying to do what we would do if we went through and grabbed stuff.
Okay.
So it's really just renaming the fields that are there.
Well, then I got some of those wrong, but all right. Should I go back and fix those?
Yes, I mean, I guess it depends on how you got it wrong. If you added fields, then yeah. If you changed any of the underlying file other than the names, then yeah, those, we wouldn't want those.
Okay, so ignore the files that are in there anyway as original, because I called them labeled because I didn't know where to put them. So you can just ignore those, and I'll update mine to
yeah, and they should
match
just be, and then they should just be placed in the hand labeled with the exact same name, because that's what I'll be looking for, is the same name files.
All right.
Cool. Quentin, I'm glad I got to see you. I'm like, wait a second, is Quentin going to be gone and then I'm not going to see him for like a whole month?
Well, I was gone last week, so I didn't do a lot, but I've just been playing around a little bit with the data set stuff because we're hoping to show it to some of the folks in Michigan today. And definitely starting to learn more than I really wanted to know about SQL. I don't know how you say it, SQLite. But it's interesting. So I think there's a lot we could do with it. I'll do like a little screen share. It's all right. Let's see. Right, sharing. Do you see my web browser?
I don't yet, but it's starting. Okay, now it's there.
Okay, there's just a little delay. All right, and you see like Form Explorer on the top. It's not green for me.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, this is the basic view that you get And I'm trying to figure out, like, what I really want to do now is to facet on the list code, because that was one of the things we identified as being important. But it's this big, I mean, it's an array essentially compacted into one column. I think we're running into some time limits. Doesn't like that. So it thinks of it as one word, but obviously we want to be able to search on any match for FA000, that having to also be FA06, right? When I click on this, I want it to just be the one code that it matches out of both of them. So that's kind of a limit. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. I'm trying to figure out how to denormalize, rather to normalize that column so that it's in its own table. I think that'll be the best way to do it. But there's some cool things.
I'm muted, but I was saying I was muted, but I was saying we could do that in the original pre-processing. Maybe at the
CSVs, maybe.
Yeah, we could, or we could, I mean, we can do it any way that we want to do it. We could make a column for, the thing is which list items we want to hold. If we would just want to deal with the top 20, the parent titles, and I think that we could make, 20 new columns and then, say whether or not they're present. The problem, I think, comes when we start thinking if we want to index against, like the 100 or so that Spot can recognize, then we start getting more. But
yeah, I think it should be its own table probably, but
yeah.
And I think I just have to figure out the query. We can do it the way you're processing it now. There are a couple of like little details, but SQL can handle that. This is kind of cool though. You can make that dashboards. And I learned a whole other new thing, which is, hold on. There we go. These are not very interesting dashboards, but
I can see it's a dashboard though.
You can see it's a dashboard. So you can basically show the results of a query and then it gets processed with this language called Vega. So if we can think of interesting queries we want to run, like one that I was thinking might be interesting to do is like a histogram to show you like how readable the forms are. To see, and then compare them across states, right? Like where do people's forms center? Because I don't think it's quite enough to see, we see the average of the readability.
Yeah, the distribution makes more sense.
Distribution within the state would also be an interesting thing, I think.
Yes. Yeah, I was thinking one for each state potentially. So yeah, I don't know what we'll get to see today, but this was interesting. I think did I already show last week how you can different kinds of searches you can run?
Yeah, you showed last week. David wasn't here for that, but
I can watch the video.
All right.
Unless you want to show.
No, I don't think we need to, but let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So this is faceting on the list code. We'd want to facet on something like reading level. We could. I don't know why.
Quentin, you were are you using two? Were you using just Flesh Kincaid, or didn't you say you're using two readability evaluation tools, or just the Flesh Kincaid?
What is the one that we're using, David?
I think it ends up producing a consensus score. So I use a couple of them.
It's yeah, I think if like in Doc, is it the same like the same?
I think it's the same package that DocAssembly uses. Yeah, I can't remember which one we pulled out. Might have pulled out the Flesh Kincaid just to get the grade, since it was using grades, but it can do it can do a whole bunch of different ones.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but I was going to say if you go to a DocAssembly interview and you do the readability, it's like the very bottom. There's a consensus that is like splits it up to like third and fourth and fifth and sixth, etc. So
I'd forgotten that the DocAssembly has that. Yeah. It'll probably be in his documentation what he uses.
Yeah, although this I mean, we did this one separate, so I think we just used the same library.
Yeah, we're both just using the same independent libraries.
It did make me realize we should go back, like a good priority might be to go back and try to get more of the forms processable, because I'm noticing there are a lot of states here that have a lot of forms that weren't able to process, but Michigan was one of the ones we were able to do. But then Massachusetts, we have like 3 times that many forms or something. So we'll want to get those processable, figure out how to do that. And this dashboard is actually kind of useful for that, So you can see which
See
dates.
where there are holes. It's like, there should be more there.
Right.
Did you get New Mexico forms?
I don't believe so.
No, doesn't look like it. We do have
There-
Alaska though.
They're doing some interesting stuff. They in terms of language access, and they did the presentation on Wednesday at the Forums Camp.
Oh, okay.
And it was about accessibility, but I missed a little part of it. But almost everything I heard had to do with language access. So, what would happen? What would happen with forms that are? I didn't know that this is the language for it, but it makes sense. It's called interlinear bilingual forms. So instead of having, like we do in Massachusetts, is an English form and a Spanish form, you're supposed to match up. It's,
Mhm.
The translation. Can we evaluate? Would the translation throw off the readability score?
Yes.
It's yeah. So that actually was really interesting when I did some exploration of that
Mhm.
in our data set here and saw like what are the low readability forms.
Right.
It very much was the ones that were not in English, which isn't
Yeah.
surprising, I guess.
Yeah.
So I was like, no.
Well, it
just-
doesn't
think
know how
there-
to, it wouldn't know how to grade them unless they
No,
have
it wouldn't know.
readability.
I would say there are different readability scores for different languages, but we would have to then like go when we're going through and parsing all the text.
Right.
We'd have to say,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
this is Spanish. Switch to using that one,
Yeah,
which
Yeah.
is doable. I think it's just probably an engineering effort.
Yeah.
So
Bryce, that paper that you did on, you did a really good paper on, I think it was a readability in plain language, wasn't it?
blog post, yeah.
Yeah.
Did not have not written the actual papers, but
Did that include translation stuff and readability tools for other languages?
they mentioned. I think there were a few. I think it mentioned a few tools. There's just so much. But I believe I mentioned a few tools that are like this language specific, or this is one that's meant to work for other languages.
Yeah.
But I don't remember if I know I researched a lot of that, but I don't remember if any of that ended up in the post. I'll have to check.
All right.
Because
But
there definitely
I
are
think that's fairly
specific
new.
ones
I've
for
been
specific
looking for
languages.
those for years. So I will try to get in touch with you outside to find out more about that.
This is interesting because the readability is done on the full text of the form, right?
Yes, I believe so. That was how we tried to get around the islands of text.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The readability I did do some text cleaning. So it does it on the full text of the form, but it does some cleaning of the form first to get rid of weird formatting things like probably what you were seeing there, which were
Yeah.
just all that special characters.
But it looks like that's the only text in there, unless it's truncated it
Yeah.
and maybe more text later down.
Yeah, that ellipsis I think probably means it's truncated at the bottom.
But this one got a reading level of 235, so I don't think it really deserved that. But
That's grade level 235, right?
Yes, that's grade level 235. Well, I don't know. I was looking at it's Greek to me.
so I think a lot of the ones that are probably over 30 are going to be artifacts like that, where they're not really.
Mhm.
We're just there's something going on. And I also noticed that the spot list code, it failed when there was over 1,000 characters. So maybe we want to have a special mode for when it's something like this, where we're trying to analyze I don't know. Or what do you think, David? That's for you. Could it be meaningful for longer texts, or is it just not meaningful?
It should be meaningful. I mean, its sweet spot is 250 words. So it should be happy with longer text.
One
Most
of the
longer
errors
text.
that I saw was that it was like too much text, which I'm sure is like an API limit that you had, probably for a good reason.
Oh, you know what?
Off for this.
I may have. I'm trying to remember which account I used for this. I may not have given it. Yes, there is a. Now I'm remembering. There is a limit on the API, so I could open that up or do something. I should look.
So those are the big things I noticed. It's like, yeah, there's like a little things like I think this is fine, but we were using single quotes instead of double quotes. And sometimes we put the error code in this column. And those are things that SQLite didn't like for data set. So like a list of things which will either be like post-processing steps, or if there are things we can change when we run the script, we'll just clean up the data a little bit, make it easier to analyze. But yeah, this is like very hard for people to jump into now, I think, but I'm really interested to see what it can do. It seems like it can do a lot. And
I'm pretty sure that in that presentation, I didn't bring it up because I wasn't allowed. It was only presentation, and then there was a Q&A, and then lots of people asked, through text on that forms camp. But it's worth it at some point when you get to the point where you want to share. You want to share it. I think there's some people who are actually asking. I mean, a National Center for State Courts would be a great place to tell about the Forms Explorer.
yes, and I'm actually doing a presentation for Forms Camp in a couple weeks.
Yeah. Are you hoping that this is going to be to a state where you can show it?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me just see what actual exact week it is.
They're pretty good. That series of sessions.
Yeah, I only have seen a couple of them, but yeah, I'll have to go back and watch the rest.
I guess there's only been 3 because they have these workshops in between, the weeks in between. So it's probably not anything new.
Okay. Yeah, but I'll be doing it on August 24th. So that's time for this tool to be more in shape. And
Be a grandmother by then.
Very exciting.
You got 22 days, assuming that she's going to be punctual, which there's no reason to think that's the case.
All right, cool. Well, that looks cool. It's fun to see that. That was just a glimmer in people's eyes before I left. So it's fun to see a little histogram and some queries. Anything else?
Nope.
All right, Bryce.
Yeah, so I have been doing primarily e-filing stuff ever since we got the official go ahead. I went through and got a whole bunch of lower hanging fruit that I wanted to make sure we could change before we officially release. And I just before the meeting I had before this, just got Let's Encrypt stuff working. Not fully automatic, but it is to the point where I can just hop into the server and run a thing, and we get a new certificate. I need to set it up so it runs automatically and then also restarts the server, which might be okay. I'm a little afraid about uptimes and stuff. It's not too much uptime, but it would be just it would be kind of annoying if it's someone's doing it and we just restart things and it takes 30 seconds. Not a ton, but it's enough to. I need to think about a better way to do it.
Is this replacing the name cheap certificates we had from before? Is that what we had?
That's the idea. I started it originally just because I wanted to split the servers to make sure the production was more reliable and we weren't running into any memory pressure issues. But as I was doing things, it ended up being, the name cheap certificate that we make expires in 6 days. So we need to do this.
It did just get we did just renew it. So if you want it, I can give you the stuff to just use that.
I think it will be okay. It would be nice if we could get the production one also on Let's Encrypt. And if we had more time, I was gonna let's just start production. But given it expires in 6 days, I just want to switch it over. So we don't have to worry about manually moving things around at least.
It expires in 6 days, but there's another one sitting there waiting for you already, paid for actually, if you want to use it.
Okay.
So I don't remember if the credentials are in Bitwarden, but I'll check and make sure they are.
I put some in there. I put all the stuff that I could find that was sitting on the server in there. So, but so that's that. And that arguably took up too much of my week this week, but I would have dropped it, but then I was like, oh, we do need this for production. Or I thought we did. So I did that. And then also just got off of a very, very productive meeting with the Marion court clerk in Illinois with Matt and Sarah Song, where we went through the user side of things and then also went through what the review docket looked like when we do e-filing. Got a lot of good feedback. They're definitely really excited about it. It went a little long. The meeting went a little long, and so I think we're scheduling another one, but it's in a few weeks because of people's vacations and stuff. So probably won't be going live next week, but at least we're like this close. It's
Well, Paul will be happy to hear that. He might still beat them out then.
yeah, that's true. Yes, I will start now that I've got everything I want ready for switching to 1.0. I can switch back to getting some Massachusetts stuff through. But that's all I really have to update.
Cool. I have no updates because I was on vacation. Still technically on vacation today, but I'm doing a couple meetings. So that's anything else anyone want to